So we have some breaking news that the Hill Harrisx Poll shows that a majority of American voters believe Tara Reade over Joe Biden. This poll shows that while a majority of Democrats believe Joe Biden and a majority of Republicans believe Tara Reade, a majority of independents, a narrow majority, but a majority nonetheless, actually believe Tara Reade. And that when you add up the data, it's basically 53-50 Americans believing Tara Reade over Joe Biden. And this is very significant because it's showing that when you ask a typical average registered voter, they are more likely to believe Tara Reade than Joe Biden. And the election is still 6 months away or so. This story's not going away if 53% of people polled are in the I believe Tara Reade camp. So this hope from the Biden campaign that ignoring the Tara Reade story and then sort of calling Tara Reade a liar without directly saying that she's a liar, that strategy hasn't worked. The Tara Reade has been credible in my eyes. She's credible in the eyes of a majority of Americans. And this story will not just fade away for the benefit of Biden and the corporate Democrat elite. Again, if we throw up the chart, you can see that this is a partisan story. A majority of Republicans believe Tara Reade. A majority of Democrats believe Joe Biden. I'm sure that when the Brett Kavanaugh story was in the news, it would be the direct inverse. We don't want to admit it, but as Chris Hayes noted on MSNBC a couple of weeks ago, the whole problem with how we report on stories of women encountering powerful men is that whether or not we believe the woman or the man depends on their political affiliation. And that's the very, very sad truth. But it is important to realize here that among independents who aren't necessarily automatically partisan to either Biden or Trump or against Biden or Trump, that 51-49, they're with Tara Reade. And 30% of Democrats believe Tara Reade. That's a substantive portion. It's a minority, of course. It's not even close to a majority. But 30%, nearly a third of Democrats, do not believe Joe Biden. People who, according to the partisan political reality, should just believe Joe Biden because it's more convenient, still don't. That's extremely telling. And there are 24% of Republicans that are with Joe Biden, but that's a smaller portion. That doesn't work out well for Biden and his campaign. And I really do feel fundamentally that this shows the weakness of the Biden campaign going forward. It's not just, Biden can't communicate. It's not his cognitive decline and dementia. It's not even just the fact that he's running on a moderate platform that will fail to register any sort of excitement with independents, any sort of excitement with infrequent voters, any sort of excitement with young voters. It's the fact that this scandal will continue to be used by his opponents as long as they feel it appeals to more voters than it doesn't. If this story was instantly unpopular with Americans, then it would go away. It would. If 80% of people believe Joe Biden, even if Tara Reade was telling the truth, the sad political reality is this story would be gone. But because it's a narrow majority for Tara Reade, you can bet your britches this story's going to go till November or till something significantly changes in terms of the patterns of belief between Tara Reade and Joe Biden, like whose side the majority of people are on. Now, there's a couple things here in this poll that might give a bit of a silver lining to Joe Biden, but I would suggest that that silver lining might also be a bit of a pitfall. It does suggest right now that if you could 100% prove that Tara Reade was telling the truth, like if you had video evidence, 57% of voters feel he should drop out, and nearly half of Democrats. Now, I still find that disturbing that even if it's 100% true, 43% of Democrats or so would still want Joe Biden to run. I feel that's abhorrent. But what it does show is, in a hypothetical universe, people would want Biden to drop out if it could be proven. But because it can't definitively be proven, most voters right now, at least, don't think Biden should drop out because unless they can have definitive, proof one way or the other, they don't want to make a decision. And basically, a majority of people right now feel that the burden of proof in terms of whether Biden should drop out and things like that still rests with Tara Reade. So Tara Reade needs to find a way to make Biden definitively guilty, then Biden definitively say that he's innocent. That bodes well for Biden in the short term. But this story is not new. It's been percolating for the past couple months almost, but it's still relatively new in the mindset of mainstream media watchers. If you don't watch me or Katie Halper or Ryan Grimm or The Hill or any of these sorts of sources, you've really only been hearing about this story for 3 weeks now, and Biden's only acknowledged it like a week and a half ago, and he's only spoken about it once or twice total, I believe. I know with Mika Brzezinski, he also mentioned it in his interview with George Stephanopoulos, but fundamentally, this story's still sort of new, and a lot of voters haven't started to pay attention yet, and there's nothing to say that as this story gets more and more attention, and people listen to Tara Reade more and more, and maybe we get even more corroborating evidence, because at first, it was just Tara Reade telling her story, and a lot of us believed her then, but maybe people were skeptical. But then we got, a series of transcripts from the Larry King Live show in 1993, where her mother called in, talking about Tara Reade's story, and it matched up the timelines. And then we got a former neighbor of Tara Reade, who's an admitted Biden supporter, saying that Tara Reade told this story in the mid-1990s. And we also got a former colleague of Tara Reade, once she moved to California, corroborate that something happened with Tara when she worked in a Senate office in Washington. And then we got records from a restraining order proceeding regarding her first husband. And in that report, her husband notes an incident in the Biden office. And again, each and every one of these things on their own is not a silver bullet. But taken together, combined with all of the circumstantial evidence, combined with what I feel is a credible statement from Tara Reade, in the court of public opinion, the drips are starting to fill that sink. I've used that analogy before. Each drip is just a drip, but a whole bunch of drips can make a sink overflow. And we're not at the election yet. So, this poll is good news for Biden in the sense that a majority of people don't want to see him drop out yet because it hasn't been proven. But a majority of people in their gut don't believe him. And if this election is close, it would not surprise me if this costs Joe Biden victory, if this costs Democrats the victory. And I know every time I talk about this, people will say, well, what about Trump and the many people that have made claims against Trump? And what I've said before, and I'll say it again, it is not fair, but people that are considering voting Republican do not have the same standards that people who would consider voting Democrat. It's just the way it is. There are lots of people out there that will vote for Trump no matter what. And there are a lot of people that will vote for Biden no matter what. But those voters the Democrats need to win, that have certain moral standards, will not vote for Joe Biden if they believe Tara Reade. And if it's a close election, they will lose because of it. So the Democrats have to start realizing that they have a candidate that has a hard time communicating, has policies out of step with independents and his own party, and has an awful scandal with a credible witness. If they don't think this is the time to use every institutional lever they have to replace him, then it's almost like they want to lose in November.